What if the kindest thing someone could say to you wasn't comforting at all? What if the words that could change your life were the very words you didn't want to hear? Because that is exactly what happened on a battlefield more than 5,000 years ago. Today, Krishna speaks for the very first time. And surprisingly, his first lesson isn't about war. It isn't about victory. It isn't even about spirituality. It's about something every one of us has experienced, the moment we completely fall apart. And his response may completely change the way you look at fear, failure, and even yourself. Last time, we left Arjuna at the lowest point of his life. Not because he had lost the battle hadn't even begun. He collapsed before the first arrow was released. His breathing became heavy, his hands trembled. His famous bow, Gandhava, slipped from his grasp. His thoughts raced, his confidence disappeared. And sitting between two armies, filled with the people he loved, he reached a conclusion many of us have quietly reached in our own lives. I can't do this. Maybe you've said those words too. Perhaps not on a battlefield, but before an important decision, before ending a relationship, before changing careers, before speaking an uncomfortable truth, or simply when life became too heavy to carry. Arjuna's battlefield looks different from ours, but the feeling is exactly the same. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita has never really been about war. It's about what happens inside the human mind when duty, fear, love, and uncertainty all collide at once. Now imagine your closest friend, the person who knows you better than anyone, watching you completely break down. What would they say? It's okay. Take your time. Everything will work out. Most of us expect comfort. Krishna chooses something else, something far more difficult, something far more transformative. Because before he teaches Arjuna how to win a battle, he first has to rescue him from the battle inside his own mind. And the way Krishna does it may surprise you. But before we hear his first words, there's one question I'd like you to carry with you throughout this episode. Not about Arjuna, about yourself. When you're overwhelmed, what do you really need? Comfort or truth? Because by the end of today's journey, the Bhagavad Gita will offer an answer that reaches far beyond an ancient battlefield. It may even change the way you speak to the people you love and the way you speak to yourself. The battlefield waits. Thousands of warriors stand ready. Generals grip their weapons. Conchas have already been blown. History is holding its breath. And yet, nothing moves because one man has stopped. Krishna looks at Arjuna. He doesn't interrupt him. He doesn't rush him. He doesn't tell him to snap out of it. Before wisdom comes, there is something even more important. Presence. Verse 2.1. Krishna sees before he speaks. Sanjaya tells King Dhritarashtra, seeing Arjuna overwhelmed with compassion, his eyes filled with tears and his mind overcome by sorrow, Lord Krishna spoke these words. Notice something remarkable. Before Krishna offers a solution, he first sees Arjuna completely. His tears, his confusion, his fear. Nothing is ignored, nothing is judged. This is the first lesson of the Gita. Before you can help someone, they must first feel seen. How often do we do the opposite? Someone shares their pain, and before they've even finished speaking, we're already giving advice, trying to fix, trying to solve, trying to explain. Krishna doesn't do that. He allows the silence to speak first, because sometimes the greatest act of compassion is simply to remain present long enough to truly understand another person's suffering. But then, everything changes because Krishna's first words are probably not the words you expect to hear. Verse 2.2 to 2.3, a question that shakes Arjuna awake. Krishna says, "My dear Arjuna, how has this weakness come upon you at such a critical moment? It is unworthy of you. It does not lead to honor. Rise, O scorcher of enemies." If this surprises you, you're not alone. Most people expect Krishna to comfort Arjuna. Instead, he challenges him. Why? Because Krishna isn't speaking to Arjuna's fear. He's speaking to the person hidden beneath that fear. Think about the people who have changed your life. Were they always the ones who agreed with you? Or were they the ones who believed in you when you had stopped believing in yourself? There are moments when sympathy heals, and there are moments when someone needs to remind us of the strength we've forgotten. Krishna knows exactly which moment this is. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't call Arjuna weak. He asks, "Where has this weakness come from?" That single question changes everything. Weakness is not Arjuna's identity. It is only his present condition, and those are not the same thing. How often do we confuse the two? "I failed" becomes, "I am a failure." "I feel afraid" becomes, "I am a fearful person." Krishna separates the person from the emotion. The fear is real, but it is not who Arjuna is. And perhaps it is not who you are either. This is one of the most compassionate truths in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Your emotions deserve to be acknowledged, but they should never become your identity. Now, this teaching is easy to misunderstand. Krishna is not telling us to ignore pain. He is not saying people should simply be stronger. That would completely miss the point. Arjuna is not an ordinary man facing an ordinary challenge. He is one of the greatest warriors of his time. Disciplined, compassionate, exceptionally trained, and Krishna knows him deeply. He knows this collapse is not caused by a lack of ability. It is caused by a mind temporarily overwhelmed by attachment and confusion. That's why Krishna speaks firmly, because true guidance isn't giving everyone the same advice. It's knowing what this person needs at this moment. Sometimes we need a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes we need silence. Sometimes we need encouragement. And sometimes someone who loves us enough to tell us the truth we're avoiding. Krishna doesn't shame Arjuna. He stays beside him. He never leaves the chariot. But neither does he allow Arjuna to surrender to a story that isn't true. Verse 2.4 to 2.6, Arjuna speaks again, yet Arjuna isn't convinced. He answers immediately, "How can I raise my bow against Bhishma, against Drona? The very men who taught me everything I know," he continues. "Better to live by begging than enjoy a kingdom purchased with their blood." Listen carefully. His words have changed, but his confusion hasn't. The mind often does this. When we don't want to face a difficult truth, it becomes incredibly creative. It finds new reasons, new arguments, new justifications. Not because they're always wrong, but because they protect us from making the decision we already know we must make. Have you ever noticed that in your own life? How easily the mind can sound wise while quietly avoiding action? And then, one sentence changes the entire Bhagavad Gita. One sentence that transforms Arjuna from a warrior into a student. Verse 2.7. The moment everything changes, Arjuna lowers his head. The arguments stop, the resistance fades, and for the first time, he says these words, "My mind is confused about my duty. I ask you, please teach me. I am your disciple. I surrender to your guidance." This may be the most important turning point in the entire Gita. Not because Krishna speaks, but because Arjuna is finally ready to listen. There is extraordinary courage in saying 3 simple words. I don't know. Most of us spend years protecting the image that we have everything figured out. Arjuna lets that image die. He stops defending his confusion. He stops pretending certainty. He chooses humility over ego. And in that very moment, wisdom becomes possible. Because the greatest obstacle to learning isn't ignorance. It's the belief that we already know. Sanjaya notices something beautiful. After speaking these words, Arjuna falls silent, and Krishna smiles. Not because Arjuna is suffering, but because the real journey has finally begun. Arjuna has listened. He now understands why the mind becomes restless, how attachment becomes desire, how desire becomes anger, how anger clouds judgment. But another question quietly arises. Perhaps the same question you're asking now. Is it actually possible to live differently? Can someone move through this unpredictable world without constantly being thrown around by every success, every failure, every opinion, every fear? Krishna answers, yes. And then he paints one of the most beautiful portraits of human potential ever described. Verse 2.55, the beginning of inner freedom. Arjuna asks, what does a person of steady wisdom look like? How do they speak? How do they sit? How do they live? It's such a human question. He isn't asking, what should I believe? He's asking, what does wisdom actually look like? Because wisdom isn't measured by what we know. It's revealed by how we live. Krishna replies, when a person gives up the desires born of the restless mind and finds contentment within the self alone, that person is called one of steady wisdom. Notice what Krishna doesn't say. He doesn't say, the wise person never has desires. He says, their happiness doesn't depend on fulfilling every desire. There's an enormous difference. Most of us say, I'll be peaceful when I get the promotion, when I buy the house, when they finally appreciate me, when life becomes easier. Our peace is always waiting for tomorrow. Krishna quietly asks, what if peace didn't have to wait? What if contentment wasn't something the world gave you, but something you learned to discover within yourself? That is the beginning of freedom. Verses 2.56 to 2.57, a heart that remains steady. Krishna continues, one who is undisturbed in sorrow, who is free from craving and happiness, who has gone beyond attachment, fear, and anger, is called a person of steady wisdom. Let's be careful here. Krishna is not describing someone who feels nothing. That would not be wisdom. It would simply be numbness. The wise still experience grief. They still celebrate. They still love. They still lose. The difference is this: their emotions pass through them. They don't imprison them. Imagine the sky. Storms pass across it. Thunder echoes. Rain falls. Then sunlight returns. The sky never resists the storm. Neither does it cling to the sunshine. It simply allows both to come and go. Krishna is inviting Arjuna to become like the sky, not emotionless, but spacious enough to hold every emotion without being overwhelmed by it. Think about someone you deeply admire, perhaps a grandparent, a teacher, a mentor, someone whose presence made everyone else calmer. They didn't panic when life became difficult. They didn't become arrogant when things went well. Being around them made you feel safe. Have you ever wondered why? Perhaps they had discovered what Krishna is describing, a strength that didn't depend on circumstances. Verse 2.58, the tortoise. Then Krishna gives us a surprisingly simple image. Just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs into its shell, so too the wise withdraw their senses from the objects of the world. At first, this sounds like running away, but look closer. The tortoise doesn't hide forever. It withdraws, only when necessary, and then it continues its journey. What an extraordinary picture. Self-control isn't refusing to live. It's choosing when to engage and when to step back. In Krishna's time, perhaps this meant walking away from temptation. Today, it might mean putting down your phone, leaving an argument before saying something you'll regret, choosing silence instead of reacting, turning off the endless noise for just a few moments so you can hear your own mind again. Real freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. Real freedom is having the ability to choose. And perhaps that's one of the rarest abilities in our modern world. Verse 2.70, the ocean. Krishna offers one final image, an image so beautiful that people have remembered it for thousands of years. He says, just as countless rivers flow into the ocean, yet the ocean remains full and undisturbed, so too the person into whom desires enter, without disturbing their peace, attains true peace. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the ocean. Thousands of rivers flow into it every single day. Some are calm, some arrive in floods, yet the ocean never runs after them, never resists them, never begs them to stay. It simply receives. Why? Because it is already full. Krishna is saying the person who knows their true nature is like that ocean. Desires still arise, success still comes, failure still comes, pleasure visits, pain visits, but nothing has the power to steal their inner peace. Not because life has become easier, because they have become vast enough to hold it all. Verse 2.71. The secret of peace. Krishna concludes, the one who abandons selfish craving, free from possessiveness and ego, attains lasting peace. Notice, he doesn't say peace belongs to the richest, the smartest, the most successful, or even the most religious. Peace belongs to the one who is no longer owned by endless wanting. What a radical idea. Our world teaches us, acquire more. Krishna whispers, need less. The world says, become someone important. Krishna says, remember who you already are. The world tells us, happiness is waiting somewhere ahead. Krishna gently smiles and says, peace has been waiting within you all along. Perhaps being spiritually mature doesn't mean escaping the world. Perhaps it means becoming the kind of person who can move through the world without constantly being moved by it. Imagine living like that, still working, still raising a family, still facing challenges, still feeling deeply, but no longer allowing every event to determine whether today you deserve peace. That is the person Krishna is inviting Arjuna to become. And perhaps he's inviting us to become that person too. The battlefield hasn't changed. The armies are still waiting. The difficult decision still lies ahead. But something inside Arjuna has begun to shift. The question now becomes, how do we actually live this wisdom when tomorrow morning arrives? How do these ancient teachings help us in an argument, during a difficult meeting, or when anxiety returns? Before Krishna continues, let's bring his wisdom from the battlefield into our own lives. For a moment, forget the chariots, forget the bows, forget the armies, because the battlefield Krishna speaks about didn't disappear 5,000 years ago. It simply changed its appearance. Today, your battlefield might be an office, a hospital room, a classroom, a family dinner, a courtroom, or perhaps it's the quiet battle inside your own mind that no one else can see. The names have changed, the weapons have changed, but the struggle is still the same. Every morning, we wake up and stand between fear and courage, attachment and freedom, reaction and wisdom. That is where the Bhagavad Gita lives. After everything we've heard today, you might be wondering, where do I begin? Krishna's answer is beautifully simple. Not easy, but simple. He doesn't ask us to become saints overnight. He asks us to become aware. Aware of what we're feeding our attention. Aware of the stories our minds keep repeating. Aware that emotions are visitors, not permanent residents. And aware that beneath all of it, there is a deeper self that remains untouched. Transformation doesn't happen in one extraordinary moment. It begins with one ordinary choice, made differently. If today's chapter could be reduced to one practical lesson, perhaps it would be this: protect your attention, because your attention becomes your attachment. Your attachment becomes your desire, and your desire quietly begins shaping your life. Every day, you are planting seeds inside your own mind. The videos you watch, the conversations you repeat, the people you compare yourself to, the thoughts you entertain, none of them are insignificant. Whatever you water will grow. So ask yourself tonight, what have I been watering? Peace or anxiety? Gratitude or comparison? Wisdom or constant distraction? Because tomorrow, you'll live inside whatever you're growing today. Krishna never tells Arjuna, don't feel. He says, don't become ruled by what you feel. There's a profound difference. Feel the sadness. Feel the disappointment. Feel the excitement. Feel the joy. But before you act, pause. Ask yourself, is this emotion telling me the truth? Or is it simply asking to be heard? Not every thought deserves to become a decision. Not every emotion deserves to become an action. Wisdom lives in that pause. Sometimes, the strongest action is the one you choose not to take. Remember Krishna's image, the ocean. Rivers continue to flow into it, but the ocean doesn't chase them. It doesn't panic. It doesn't cling. It receives and remains itself. Imagine beginning each day with that image. Today's praise is a river. Today's criticism, another river. Today's success, today's disappointment, today's unexpected delay, today's joyful surprise. Let them come. Let them go. You don't have to become every experience that passes through your life, because you are far greater than any single moment. Perhaps the most comforting teaching in today's episode is this: you are not your worst mistake. You are not your greatest achievement. You are not the opinion someone formed about you. You are not the fear that visits you at night. You are not the role you happen to be playing today. These things matter, but they are not the whole of you. Krishna reminds us that beneath every changing role, there is an unchanging presence, a quiet witness, a deeper self. And the more often you return to that place, the less the world can shake your peace. So before we leave, I'd like to invite you to try something, just for 1 week, not forever, just 7 days. Every evening, ask yourself one simple question: what controlled my attention today? Was it fear? Was it anger? Was it comparison? Was it gratitude? Was it purpose? Don't judge the answer. Simply notice it. Because the moment you become aware, the chain Krishna described begins to weaken. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Today, Krishna has shown us who we truly are. He has shown us how the mind creates suffering, and he has shown us what inner steadiness looks like. But one question still remains. perhaps the most practical question of all. If the wise person finds peace within, why should they act at all? Why work? Why strive? Why build? Why fight injustice? Why fulfill responsibilities? Wouldn't it be easier to simply walk away from the world? Arjuna is about to ask exactly that. And Krishna's answer has inspired leaders, teachers, parents, scientists, artists, and seekers for thousands of years. Because in the next chapter, Krishna reveals the secret of karma yoga, not merely the yoga of action, but the art of living with purpose without becoming a prisoner of results. When this chapter began, Arjuna was overwhelmed. His hands trembled, his thoughts raced, his courage disappeared. He believed the battle before him was impossible to fight. But look closely now. The battlefield hasn't changed. Bhishma still stands before him. Drona is still there. The armies haven't moved. The challenge is exactly the same. So what changed? Arjuna did. And that may be the first great lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes peace doesn't come because life becomes easier. It comes because we begin to see life differently. Notice something remarkable. Krishna has not yet told Arjuna whether to fight. He hasn't given him a strategy for victory. He hasn't promised that everything will work out perfectly. Instead, he has given Arjuna something much more valuable, a new way of seeing. He has shown him that he is more than his fear, more than his grief, more than his changing circumstances. He has shown him how the mind creates suffering and how awareness begins to dissolve it. Because before we can change our actions, we must first change the way we see. Every lasting transformation begins there. As this episode comes to an end, I'd like to leave you with one question. Not about Arjuna, about you. What battlefield are you standing in today? Is it a difficult decision you've been avoiding? A relationship that needs honesty? A fear that has quietly controlled you for years? An expectation that keeps stealing your peace? Or perhaps it's simply the endless noise inside your own mind. Whatever your battlefield is, remember this. Krishna never asked Arjuna to pretend the battle wasn't real. He asked him to see it clearly, because clarity always comes before courage, and courage always comes before action. Before you begin another busy day tomorrow, take 60 seconds. Sit quietly, without your phone, without distractions, and ask yourself, what is one fear or one attachment that has been making my decisions for me? Don't rush to answer it. Simply observe, because awareness is where transformation begins. And perhaps that single minute will teach you more than hours of unconscious living. But Krishna's teaching has only just begun, because Arjuna is still confused. In fact, he's about to ask one of the most practical questions in the entire Bhagavad Gita. He says, if wisdom is greater than action, then why should I act at all? It's an extraordinary question, one that every one of us has asked in one form or another. If inner peace is the goal, why pursue a career? Why build a business? Why raise a family? Why serve society? Why struggle? Wouldn't it be easier to walk away? Krishna's answer changes everything. Because in our next episode, he introduces karma yoga, the yoga of selfless action, a way of living where you give your very best without becoming a prisoner of the outcome. It is a teaching that has guided leaders, scientists, teachers, parents, entrepreneurs, and seekers for thousands of years. And it may completely transform the way you think about work, success, and purpose. If today's journey helped you see your own mind a little more clearly, then this wisdom is already beginning to do its work. If it touched your heart, Share this episode with someone who may need these words today. And if you'd like to continue this journey through the Bhagavad Gita, one chapter at a time, I'd be honored to have you with us. Because this series isn't just about understanding an ancient scripture, it's about learning how to live with greater clarity, greater courage, and greater peace, one chapter at a time, until our paths meet again. May you have the wisdom to see clearly, the courage to act rightly, and the peace to remain steady through every season of life. Jai Shri Krishna.